All right, moving on to consent. I have, does commission want anything pulled off consent? I have 2 cards. I have other cards in case things were pulled, but I have 2 comment cards for F19 and F27. So can I get a motion to approve consent minus F19 and F27? I have a motion by Commissioner Tobias, second by Commissioner Pritchett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, F19. Phil Ketchland? Take your time.
I apologize. I've been slowed down a little for a while here.
You're fine.
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of the BCOA. I know that at some point in time, you're going to be discussing this as a subject matter, but I'm not sure exactly where it's going to fit into the situation. One of the things under discussion you are is changing the number of meetings per month or per year on the situation. You formed this body about 11 years ago, and really we're made up of a whole bunch of groups and so on, from the government by League of Cities, Triad for the police, medical. We have the physicians in Brevard, the health department, and the hospitals are involved in our board. United Way, AARP, and Senior Resource Alliance, just some of them. And every month we meet and so on and go over the problems and everything that are currently going on relative to within our county. We've always had speakers there to share the information, and also our notes and so on are also then shared with the rest of you. But we have speakers there recently, like on guardianship, a weed. There's a new source in Brevard County now to provide assistance for seniors, a low income for having mortgage problems and so on, to try to prevent foreclosure. And so we were able to bring them on board and have talks with them. We do monthly news articles and so on now. We've set up a program for the last 4 years where every month we have the section in Senior Life where we actually publish help articles and so on else for the seniors we have in our area. And that's been anything from Alzheimer's, fraud, senior needs, you can name it. As it comes on up and problems arise, so do we come about and speak on this. We also have put together an annual page that's been the last several years in the Boomer's Guide, which I'm sure you've all seen, which is put out by Senior Life as a great resource for everything else. And we provide a page in there every year now, and so on, as far as demographics relative to our county. Frankly, right now, the above 60 population has moved from back when we first started a few years ago to 25%. This last thing has 26. And the latest demographics from DEOA show we'll be at 33% of the population this coming year. And so this is an ongoing section of what you are having to see and deal with every year and so on. By comparison, if we take a look at the under 18, which are very important to us, they're moving from the 26% down to basically to 25%. So this is such seniors are continuing to grow. Even on a state level, we have a much higher demographic of seniors than the entire state. So this has been a very big area and an impact zone in which people are going to be seeing more and more of. We think of it very, very important to the economy, as you naturally know. A lot of money comes in from seniors and so on, a lot of housing and everything of this nature. And as such, I want you to let you know that we very much wish that only that we can continue for that, but I think we're a very important resource that we're even now being underutilized. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, this item was for the budget change request. Did Commission have any comments or questions? All right, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve F19.
I have a motion for approval of F19 by Commissioner Tobias,
Second.
Second by Commissioner Pritchett. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item F27. Mary Peel.
So, good morning, Marie Peel, Vice Chair, Libertarian Party, Brevard County, resident of Cocoa. A little over a year ago, a fire assessment was passed, and there was also with that motion a vote to do a audit of the fire department. And part of the reason I had requested that is because I appreciate greatly what the fire department does, and I feel that the safety of the firefighters and of the people of the Brevard County depends on there being a budget that matches what they need and that it's followed and the spending matches. If there's issues that there's an imbalance, then that actually puts them at danger and their ability to help the people of Brevard at danger. So there's a precedent of internal audits that have come before this board that look at the budget, spending, and practices and give ratings of risk and recommendations based on that audit. What is presented today is a fire rescue data analysis. It's 25 pages of comparative analysis of salaries, justification for the assessment, spending deficit charts, a very broad overview of the revenue of the sources that go into the fire department and EMS, and analysis of fire rescue turnover and exit interviews. Well, all that information is very important. It is not an audit of the fire department. So I would say that based on what the board voted on and requested, that what was received doesn't actually match what was asked for. And again, I greatly appreciate what the fire department does, but I want to see that they are well budgeted and taken care of. And if they're having to go above their reserves, then maybe there's a reason, something we need to look at. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Pritchett, second by Commissioner Tobias. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, I have nothing further on consent that wasn't pulled. So we'll move on to public comments. I have a lot of cards. Charles Violi. And after Charles, it'll be Captain Charles Robert Muncie Jr. If you just state your name for the record, please.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today regarding ordinance 74-102 and 102.5. I am 74 years old, and this one mistake is the only blemish on my record. Arrested 22 years ago, I have no victims. I have served my sentence, and I'm not on probation. I have family and friends who have lived here in Brevard County since the 1970s. They are the only reason I remain here in Brevard. In addition, I am a taxpayer, college graduate, and a veteran. I have lived in Brevard County since 2012, and for the past 7 years, I have lived in a home I own in a retirement community. During this time, I have served on our HOA and continue to serve on our neighborhood watch. I have been personally introduced to Sheriff Wayne Ivey, as well as our city mayor and all city council members. It is not easy to be here today because not only me, but my friends and family are intimidated by the system, making them afraid to speak up in my behalf. When other people go to work, shopping, to a doctor or church, they do not experience the same feelings of fear or anxiety as I do. It is an awful feeling to have to live in constant fear. Will I violate the ordinance today and never go back home? The proximity restrictions prohibit my ability to travel within the county. There are no maps or list locations that tell me if I am too close to restricted areas. And as for restricted areas, I have no need or interest to go to a school, playground, parks, or daycare centers. When I need to travel to a doctor, grocery store, barber, or restaurant, I don't know if they're in the restricted areas. And the recent amendment that allows businesses to self-certify that they are a park or a playground only makes it more frightening for me to know where to go. As an American citizen, I can only hope that more care goes into our lawmakings. Do they meet our constitutional requirements? Or will they violate any person's human or civil rights before they are enacted? Are we using the correct data to make all these decisions? Are these laws actually producing safety or excessive punishment, as well as wasting police time and our taxpayer dollars? keeping in mind that all lives matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tobias?
Quick question. I'm sorry. Are you the victim here?
No, no.
Okay. It sounded very, very close to you claiming you were a victim up here. I just want to make that clear.
Well, you feel that way because of the requirements. You don't know where to go.
Okay. So the situation,
Yeah.
you
it
feel
makes
as though you're a
like
victim?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Captain Charles Robert Muncie Jr.? And after Captain Charles Vincent Rinaldi? If you could just state your name, please. Can you just state your name, please, for the record when you speak?
I'm Captain Charles Robert Muncie Jr., United States Navy, retired.
Thank you.
I'm here to address the Brevard County ordinance concerning registered citizens. I am a resident of Port St. John. I want to thank you for partially restoring my constitutional rights to come here and provide a brief commentary on the revised Brevard County ordinance that restricts registered citizens. By the way, the revised ordinance is still based on false information. This is not opinion, but facts provided by professional researchers, facts that were provided to the commissioners earlier this year. I moved to Brevard County in 2003 to help my aging parents. I had my retirement home built in Port St. John. Since then, I have seen both my mother and my father go on to their reward. My son and my daughter's families have now both relocated to Brevard and have their homes here. I am a registered citizen from an offense in Virginia. I have never had a sexual offense in Florida, yet I am designated a predator in Florida, not in Virginia. I am no longer registered in Florida. My daughter, the victim, long ago resolved the situation and we get along fine just now. I have been active in community affairs both here and in Virginia. I was released from probation 11 years early. Let's see. What must politicians do to control people and their dissent? Avoid abstract ideas, constantly appeal to just a few ideas, give only one side of an argument, pick out one special enemy for vilification. This approach worked for Adolf Hitler and got millions of Jews murdered. We are still seeing a similar approach used today dealing with registered citizens. When my daughter first moved to Florida, I borrowed an RV for her to live in. When she needed to pick up some groceries, when I needed to pick up some grocery for her, she had to come out to US Highway 1 to pick them up by foot because she was in Manatee Hammock Park. While recovering from a stay in the hospital, I was one day trying to get my strength back by walking with crutches. My neighbor's son was walking the other direction carrying a cello case. I congratulated him. The result of a talk he and his dad and I had. A neighborhood biddy reported me to the sheriff because I was within 1,000 feet of a tot lot. I spent 4 months in jail, 3 in Virginia for a violation of the ordinance. During that time, my mother had to be taken out of her home and put into assisted living. And while there, she passed away.
Commissioner Tobias?
Okay, thank you.
If I may, I'm sorry, we do have pending litigation involving this individual, so I just would like to bring that to the attention of the board.
Thank you. Thank you
If I
very
may,
much.
Commissioner.
Captain Muncie, are you too a victim here, in your opinion?
No,
Okay. And second of all, you're very quick to point out your service to the country. What you did gloss over was what happened in Virginia. Do you want to, you use the word registered. Do you want to go over, and I'd rather you not, but do you want to go over what caused you to be a registered citizen?
I could tell you some basic stuff. My wife and I met in the Navy.
I don't think that had anything to do with what
It sure did. Well, see, that's the problem. It's your opinion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you want to talk to me, I'll meet you in your office.
No, absolutely not.
I'm going to reserve comment. Vincent Rinaldi. And after Vincent, Patty Panzarino.
Good morning. I'm here to speak about Section 74102B, more specifically the amendment, Section 74102.5. This amendment, which was passed without allowing the citizens whom it affects to speak, permits any business to self-certify their park. This alone defies common sense, since a business is not a park under any circumstances. This amendment is unfair and probably illegal, not only to registered citizens, but also to the businesses that find themselves within the 1,000-foot buffer. After a business self-declares, any other business within that buffer zone loses potential business. I would argue that the commissioner has no right to force a business in this county to possibly lose money. Your job is to make this county better for all. This amendment fails to do that in many ways. In your attempt to continually punish me for a crime I did my time for, you are, in fact, hurting and punishing other law-abiding citizens of this county. In addition, the original ordinance has prohibited me from obtaining a notary in order to file a, excuse me, let me back up. The amendment fails to do this in many ways. In addition, I wanted to come to the county offices to put my house in a trust for estate planning purposes, which is my desire and right to do. To do this, I had to obtain a notary. Well, can't go to my bank to obtain that notary because it's within 1,000 feet of a park. So I cannot conduct normal business that any citizen of this county is permitted to do. This is one example of many that I can offer that proves this ordinance hurts and punishes other individuals. Behind me, there's a woman in a wheelchair. Her name is Patty. And I care for her. I am her life partner. And the original ordinance makes it difficult for me to carry out those responsibilities. The amendment makes it impossible. Not only are other businesses off limits by the 1,000-foot buffer zone, but there's currently no way for me to even know where that buffer zone is. I cannot care for Patty. I cannot go pick up prescriptions for her. She fears, as you'll hear soon, that I might be locked up if I take her to a hospital, okay? So it appears to me that this commission will go out of its way to continually offer harsher and harsher punishments to registered citizens, all in the guise of protecting the public, when in fact, these ordinances and amendments do no such thing, okay? Patty cannot risk spending a night alone because I'm locked up in jail. It could end badly for her, and that would be on your head. I pray that this commission will realize the burden these ordinances and amendments put on all citizens, not just registered ones, and do the right thing and repeal them respectfully. Thank you.
Patty Panzarino. And after Patty, Brian Walsh.
Give me a second.
You're fine.
I'm elevating. Just don't put that to. Thank you for your patience. Put that where my phone is. Hold it. Just 2 pages. Okay. Does that move?
Oh, you might be able to move the mic. I'm not sure if it's portable or not. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I don't have a very loud voice.
That's okay. I
Can you
think we
hear
can
me?
hear you.
Point it this way. That's it? Okay. Good morning. I have spent many vacations here in Brevard County since 1997. My family lived in Melbourne Beach. I fell in love with this area. And for the past 6 years, I've been living in Palm Bay, which is a dream come true. Vincent Rinaldi is my primary caregiver and life partner who knows my specific needs. He has been my primary caregiver for 12 years, which includes 6 years here in Palm Bay. I won't talk about the fact that because of your proximity law, there are many places to visit for fun and entertainment that I am now allowed to go with Vincent as my caregiver. The purpose of my testimony here is to inform you of the punitive nature of this law that not only affects registered citizens, but their employers, families, and loved ones. Vincent cannot bring me to medical appointments, cannot bring me to CVS to pick up prescriptions, cannot bring me to my medical equipment provider because they are all within 1,000 feet of a school, playground, park, or daycare center. All the above makes my life difficult and quite limited. But there is one factor here that is potentially life-threatening for me. I am affiliated with Holmes Regional Medical Center, which is also within the 1,000-foot parameters, which limit registered citizens. My fear is possible illness or injury, which requires me to go to the hospital and or be admitted to the hospital. My disability, spinal muscular atrophy, require specific protocols that most hospital workers and clinicians are not familiar with. I can provide you data and information to prove that, if you wish. Oops, I just lost my place. For example, I have very specific ways I need to be positioned and assisted because of respiratory issues, dangers of aspiration, and acquiring injuries. Throughout my life, anytime I have been hospitalized, it was imperative to have my own personal caregiver with me the whole time throughout my hospital stay. The thought that Vincent could be arrested for being there with me terrifies me. Terrifies me. This is life-threatening to me, an American citizen living in Brevard County with a disability. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Walsh. Sure. Oh, that's okay. No interest in the rest of the meeting. Commissioner Tobias?
Yeah, do you want to go quickly on the record and let us know you're not affiliated with the folks that came before you?
I have no affiliation with anybody here.
That's probably a good.
That's clear because they're all departing at the same time.
Okay.
Okay.
My name is Brian Walsh. I'm here on behalf of my neighbors in the village of Suntree. About 2 years ago, our landscapers, who know a lot about trees, cut down a bunch of dangerous trees, maybe about 10. I don't really know the number. They were dead, they were broken, they were breaking driveways, they were damaging houses. We had some houses, many driveways were broken by the trees. We had one house in particular where the tree roots got under the house, undermined the plumbing, and they had to break through the floor in the living room to repair the plumbing. Another house, a branch fell off a tree and went through a windshield. So these trees have done a lot of damage. Somebody reported that we cut down the trees to the county, and with that, they came out and put down a program that we have to implement. And I gave you the basic guidelines of the program. But this program, in essence, is going to cost $165,000 plus an additional $30,000 to put in a well. They're requiring us to plant 265 trees throughout our community. We already have a good number of trees already. We just removed a dozen, give or take, of dangerous dead trees. One tree had been hit by lightning. They were no good. They were hurting people. My neighbor across the street, one of the trees fell in a storm, crashed through a cinder block wall in his house, significantly doing damage. I'm asking you to reverse this decision to impose these strict rules, and I gave you the outlines of them, on the community. They're very expensive. Most of our residents are senior citizens on fixed incomes. And this works out to approximately $30 a month if they were able to finance it. It's $195,000, $200,000 that has to be paid out over 5 years according to this plan. They're generous. They let us take 5 years to replace the trees, but that's an abhorrent budget kicker to these people. And we're not even allowed to pick the type of tree, location of the tree, or anything else. They're dictating the type of tree, where it's to be planted. In addition to that, there's a border between our community and the next community where neighbors have swimming pools and nice backyards. It's wooded. A lot of the trees are these Australian peppers or something like that. They're mandating that we clear cut it and rip all of these trees out. We don't even know where the borderline is between the two communities, to be honest. So that means we're going to have to go to the expense of an extra survey. This is a tremendous hardship on the community, and it creates an eyesore and removes a big privacy barrier. I
Can I
appreciate your time.
Have you talked to the staff or your commissioner for your area?
The people in charge have basically told our board they dare not challenge them or else.
That's not true. I mean, I would encourage you to reach out. And Commissioner Smith, I'm sure it's on tree, right?
Who?
Commissioner Smith,
I haven't spoken to him.
I would reach out to him, and if I'm sure the county staff would work with you. I'm not sure exactly the situation, but I would definitely try to get with staff and see, maybe it can better be explained. I don't know that there's a remedy, but.
Well, my hope is that you'll reverse this mandate that we put in 260 trees. That's a lot of trees.
Yeah.
It's not like we removed 10, 12 trees. I don't even know how many. I haven't noticed any difference in the property. But, to replace 260 trees for 10 trees is out of balance. They're looking for a tremendous amount of canopy. Well, canopy is shade. We have grass. Grass buries CO2 better than trees do. I happen to find out in my research.
Again, I would encourage you to meet with the commissioner and maybe meet with staff, and they can kind of go through things. You can always talk to staff, and you can always talk to your commissioner.
Okay.
There's never an or else provision.
Well, this is actually my first contact, and
Yeah.
I just need to get this stopped because we're under the thumb to get this project started. And it's a awesomely large project that the community does not want to do.
Okay. Do we have maybe give them your contact information?
Sure.
Somebody? Yeah. But can they give Jim or John, get his contact information? Yeah, we can forward it to the commissioner. Maybe staff can work with you guys. Okay.
Okay. I
All right.
appreciate your time. I hope we get positive consideration for you because this is a very, very hard burden on the members of the community.
Right. I have a Victor Doswit, and after Victor, Caroline Corbett, and that's it for public comment. Hi, go
Hi,
ahead.
thank you. I don't know the name of the ordinance. My name is Arthur Victor Dodswhite, and I'm addressing the sex offender ordinance. And my problem is I have a neighbor. I've been a jail ministry and prison ministry for about 20-some years here in Brevard County in Orlando. So I meet some of these sex offenders, and some of them have very minor charges, including my neighbor who lives 3 doors from me. He was in a situation where he was just became an adult, and he was at a party in his partying days. Now they're long gone. He's a very mature adult. He's one of the most trusted men, friends I have. But he had sex with this girl at a party, and then she accused him of rape. And then, of course, he couldn't do anything because she would have been contempt of court if she changed her story. But anyway, since for all these years he's been on these tremendous restrictions, and now with this, whatever they're going to pass, it's going to be even more a heavier burden yet. I have another friend who's got a very minor. The problem with this the sex ordinance is they don't distinguish between serious offenses and minor offenses. And so the 2 friends I'm very acquainted with know their backgrounds, know the whole story, and I'm convinced of their truth because I know these men and their integrity. And the problem is they're being classified with very serious sex offenders, and now they have to suffer the same punishment that the other ones may justly deserve, but they don't deserve it, and I feel for them. My heart hurts for them. And I just want to plead for their cause and trust that the county will make the right decision on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Caroline Corbett? Caroline Corbett? She may have left. Yep. I don't see Caroline here, and I don't see anybody waving their hands. So we'll move on to public hearings. Yep, Commissioner Pritchett, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Tobias, can I ask you a question? You were on the state of Florida government for a long time. As far as levels of what they do for the sexual offenders, that comes from the state. Am I correct on that? Or you guys kind of lay out a lot of items from the state, what the state does?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Yes, part of my being part of the Florida legislature, and then part of the time I was there, we dealt with those quote unquote Romeo and Juliet laws out there that looks at what appeared as this gentleman may have been speaking with. I don't want to get too much into it because in all honesty, I think I might have voted the other way on it, but it takes care of that, 1917 type of scenario that you hear. But to go off that, there was a constitutional amendment, Amendment 4 a few years back. I was strongly opposed to it. This one was the amendment that re-enfranchised folks that had committed felonies. I was on the minority side of that, so that's now in our Constitution. However, even the folks who were pushing for this, the people that I don't want to say had made terrible decisions, I'm probably better to say terrible people, recognized that there were 2 groups of people that were so heinous that they didn't even want to be associated with them. Those 2 groups of people that they didn't want to be associated with were murderers and sex offenders. So that one did pass, and I voted against that one. It's part of our Constitution, so absolutely I'll hold it. But I just want to let you know that Florida has already said overwhelmingly that they were much kinder than I would be, but they saw that those 2 groups of folks were so bad, their crimes were so heinous that they never should have the right to vote again. Also, I'll throw in my 2 cents. You shouldn't ask me a question, but I think it's pretty unfair for decisions that they made in the past that they compare us to the atrocities of Hitler and blaming us for potential deaths for decisions that were not made predicated by any of us up here. So I'm sorry. This was something that I brought forward. I think that our children are precious and innocent, and anyone that takes that away is absolutely horrific at the time they take that innocence away. And yes, there are greater people with much more forgiveness than me, but that's something that I don't have that level of compassion. The recidivism rates are through the roof, and And for that, I apologize that you had to be compared to that for an action that I brought to the board.
Thank you, sir. I do want to note that some of this issue we're discussing is allowing people to come here for public comment. The problem is we're so close to schools that it's created some obstacles that the county attorney has been working through, trying to find ways to give notice. I do want to just say, though, people go in and they serve their time. They can come back out and live, but there's some things you do, you never gain trust back. And I will always err on the side of kids. So if there's ever an opportunity to protect children, I'm in with Commissioner Tobias and Commissioner Zonka on that. So, people live their lives and do what they need to do, but we're going to do our best to make sure there's not any opportunity for vulnerable population to ever become victims. And I do feel so bad for victims. And I've lived a long life of trying to help people get better. And it's very rare people ever get completely well on the other side of that. So just wanted to make those comments. And I do feel really sad for the families that have to continue to carry a lot of weight and a lot of pressure from past things that have happened.
And I wasn't going to say anything because I feel very impassioned about this as well. And I didn't want to say anything that was, too harsh, I guess. But, when you're released from prison, whether it be, whatever kind of crime, felony, whatever, there's rules of probation. When you commit a sex crime, because I noticed how they conveniently called themselves registered citizens, and I was half tempted to ask them if they were commenting on their voter registration or their sexual predator or sexual offender status. But I think what bothered me the most, and Commissioner Tobias brought it up, was being compared to Adolf Hitler, when in actuality, for the one guy 22 years prior, he committed a crime at 52 years old and then got up here and acted like the victim. So I have little sympathy for that, especially the guy that came up here and wore a uniform and demanded these rights. And he was the same guy that compared us to Hitler. So I have a feeling had he committed those crimes while in service to this country, he would not be up here in that uniform today. So it's sad because I think I'm just sad that he wore the uniform and got up here and complained that he has to be a registered sexual predator in the state of Virginia. And if you do a little research, you'll see that sexual predators are a whole new level yet of sex offenders. So I don't sympathize, and I'll always err on the side of caution. And I just don't care. It's not a simple robbery. It's not a bad choice as a teenager, and it's not something that you can easily recover from. And for the victims of those crimes, I'd love to see those guys come up here and talk about how their lives are changed forever, than to hear somebody complain about how they can't go somewhere because they worry that they'll violate our sex offender ordinance. So I'm going to stop now. All right, moving on. You opened the can of worms, please, Commissioner Bridget. All right. believe we're moving on to item H1.
Good morning, Commissioners. H1 is a petition to vacate a public utility easement at 442 Puffin Drive, Barefoot Bay Mobile Home. The Solace Family Trust in District 3 requesting a public hearing to vacate two public utility easements. This is two 6-foot wide public utility easements between two properties to build a new garage and a breezeway. There are no objections or issues.
Okay. All right.
Chair, so moved.
Commissioner Tobias? I have a motion by Commissioner Tobias for approval, second by Commissioner Pritchett, and I have no cards. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item H2. I'll let staff explain it and then go on to public comment. I love the jacket, Ian.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning. So item H2 is the first public hearing for our consolidated 5-year plan and annual action plan, which covers our CDBG program and our joint home consortium program with the cities of Palm Bay, Melbourne, Cocoa, and Titusville. This first public hearing, there is no vote. This is an opportunity for the public for us to solicit input into the planning process, the final version of which will be brought back to the board on August 2nd. There is another opportunity, a public meeting that will be taking place on the 19th, 2 days from now, in the Space Coast room in this building on the second floor at 4:30 in the afternoon, early evening. Again, this is basically to provide the framework for the activities that are going to be done through those two programs and funded through those two programs. We do have in the audience Joel Warren with our consulting group, Cloudburst, who's here to answer any process questions.
Okay, I have a public comment card. Robert Kimklowski.
Good morning. I'm here to talk about the community block grants and the community land trust. So in the Brevard Charter right now, there's a proposal for a trust for a actual receiving federal and state subsidies and funding to retain the land value of the community. So the community land trust would set up a program that would retain a 99-year lease, and the Brevard County would retain the land, but then the recipient of either the SHIP or the HUD funding would then gain equity of the home, the improvements, and they could sell in a year, and Brevard County would win, and the person that the recipient receiving the subsidy would win. So I'm just wondering if you guys have heard of CLTs and if that could play into this proposal at all.
Is that it?
That's everything.
Thank you. Ian?
I wasn't sure if you wanted to respond again, because it's just the solicited input. I will tell you that our Affordable Housing Council is looking at a number of different types of activities to expand what we're currently doing, and community land trusts are a part of that discussion.
Great. Awesome. I have no other cards. An H1. I don't have a card. Oh.
You not read your card.
Usually we don't take cards after the item's already, after the public hearing's closed, but that's fine.
Kristen Marti, Cocoa resident, District 1. And I wasn't necessarily planning to speak today, but because there was so little public input, I want to add on this. I do intend to come back on Thursday. But I'm interested in this topic. I like that the HUD program requires public input and participation in it. And as a requirement of the funding, they do that. And I'd like to see more public input into the process. I see very little public input into the process. It seems to me more like it's a checkbox in order to obtain funding. And I would like to see more outreach and more goals and more people weighing in on this. And in particular, there's wording in some of the HUD background about reaching out to vulnerable populations. I'm in a non-vulnerable population, and I find it very hard to get the information. For example, the plan here is, the former plan is not available online. Someone came into the Cocoa Cares Facebook group and asked, where's the former plan, so that they could start reviewing that in order to prepare for a meeting like this. And I went and looked at the Brevard website, and it's not there. So why can't the citizens easily find information? There's also a Brevard County public participation plan, and that should be available on the website so that the public could at least know about it and have more opportunity. I'd also like the public to have more opportunity to review the materials. I was able to obtain the RFP that I requested in conjunction with the block program after getting the invoice for $159, which I had spoken of previously. So while I was glad to get that information, I really think it should be easy to obtain. If the public is interested enough to look into these programs, to do some of the research, and to show some interest in it, I think it should be easy. And I do want to give a positive commendation to the Cloudburst representative who did, through COCO, who did spend some time with me. So I appreciated that gesture. But I really think that all of our the municipalities involved and the county could do a lot more to include the public. I would like my comments included in the plan. I will be looking for the plan when it comes out on June 6th. That's when it's supposed to be released for the 30-day period. I plan to be here on Thursday, and I think it's a real opportunity to put our citizens back into the community and invite their input. Thank you.
Ian, do you want to comment on the public input?
I would
You can
just
sit.
We have multiple opportunities for public input throughout the course of the year. Like I said, this is a 5-year overarching plan, but we do an action plan every year. So there's every public meeting through CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee, through the Affordable Housing Committee. We do meetings out in our communities. We have 7 identified strategic areas throughout the county where we do community meetings. In addition to that, while we don't have the plans on the website, they are available electronically. They are HUD forms, so they don't quite meet our requirements for Section 508 compliance. So we make those available when requested.
Explain what that Section 8.
It's a requirement that documents meet a certain guidelines for ADA compliance. So
It's
they
not
are
because we
readable.
don't want to put them online.
Correct, but they are also available on the HUD website. So HUD has our plans available. So there are multiple opportunities. There is a citizen participation plan. That citizen participation plan is also available upon request. The participation plan actually guides us in the number of public hearings we have and all of these other opportunities for input.
Commissioner Tobias?
Madam Chair, quick question. Mr. Golden, public record request of $107, which is quite a bit of money, was brought up. If a member of the public was to ask for one of these plans, you've given a good reason it's not online, but would there be a public record charge just for the plan, or could that be done in the 15 minutes?
So I didn't want to speak to that because I'm not 100% certain it was this case, but that was brought to my attention, and there was actually no charge that was given to that records request. I do not know if it was the same one. If we have the documents electronically, there typically will not be any charge.
Okay, and help me here. How many pages are we talking about on? Well, let me ask this: for if this does come up, do you mind scanning those for me, for my office? So if it does come up, then there will be no public record.
Well, and I will
public record request fee.
I will also say that every time we've brought those plans to the board, they've been attached to the agendas. So they are also available through that process. And so when we bring this plan back to the board, it will be attached to the agenda.
Thank you for your diligence on this.
All right, I have no more cards. Motion by Commissioner Pritchett for approval, second by Commissioner Tobias. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item H3. Musical chairs.
Madam Chair, item H3 is the second public hearing for the Cedar Lakes development. The rationale of this is that due to the capacity at the St. John's wastewater plant being over 85%, it triggers an ordinance. So as a result, in order to work with the developer and having what would be a 3-phase project by ordinance being completed as one is the driver of this agreement.
All right, I have a motion for approval by Commissioner Pritchett, second by Commissioner Tobias. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item I1. Mr. Tobias?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the March 8th regular board meeting, the board voted to consolidate 5 Brevard County Parks boards into 2 advisory boards. Those were the newly titled North Brevard Commission on Parks and Rec and the South Central Parks and Rec Board. On May 3rd, Commissioner Pritchett raised some valid and helpful concerns regarding the Cocoa West Recreation Complex Advisory Committee, which was previously voted on to consolidate into the new South Central Park and Rec Board. So at the last meeting, I brought forth several options to address the concerns which I spoke about on the May 5th meeting. Those options have not changed. I'll be more than willing to go over them should there be any questions. However, my office did go a little bit further. We emailed, we called, and we sent hard snail mail letters to each of the 5 members of the Cocoa West Recreation Complex Advisory Committee to hear what their input was. Well, we spoke to 5 members. One was traveling and didn't have the hard copies of any of that stuff, but we heard very, very similar things from 4 board members. Those would be Miss Sharon Spikes, Miss Leatrice Brothers, Miss Betty Wells, and Mr. Ezeal Battle. They expressed no issues with becoming part of the larger committee, but preferred to remain the responsible voice for decisions made for the Cocoa West Recreational Complex. The 5th member, as previously mentioned, Pastor Jesse Guest, he was going to get back with us after, is what his opinion were. So if that's to take place, option 1 probably doesn't work, but option 2 or 3 would work for 4 and potentially 5 of the committee members. It would work for the plan that I had initially put forth to consolidate. So I think either plan 2 or plan 3 would work. It's just a new development on what transpired at the last meeting, Madam Chair. So I'd like to hear any input and make a motion. I don't care which, to either option 2 or either option 3.
All right, I have a card. Sharon Spikes.
Good morning, I'm Sharon Spikes. I'm addressing the same issue, the Cocoa West Recreation Complex Advisory Board, which I also serve on that board, District 1. I did talk to Mr. Bond, and what I heard this morning, we would like to continue for you all to allow us to make the decisions in that area. And that's all I have to say on that.
Mr. Tobias.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And real quickly, option 2 and option 3, I don't know if Mr. Bond, I'm sure he did a great job going over that, but I'd like to hear, if you have a preference for one or the other. Either way, your board would have the ability to dictate what happens to the facility that you're currently there. It would give your 5 votes the supermajority. In fact, what this plan would do would provide you with more voting power, because now you could vote on other things that were outside your direct facility, but important, I imagine, to your larger community. So the question is, for it to go forward, would you like a simple majority of the 5, or would you like it to be unanimous of the 5? Do you care as to which? I haven't followed your board, so I don't know if you normally make collective action as a 5. I know we don't generally up here. So a majority may be easier, but it's completely up to you. And I want to thank you for your service to not only the board, but to getting back with us on your opinion. I just want to make sure, that whatever is best for you happens.
Well, I would like to allow all the members, all 5, like you stated. I don't know if that was H2. Was that H2 where we all would be able to make a decision?
Madam Chair, in either of them, you're making the decision.
Right, okay.
One is you have to be unanimous, and one is it's just a simple majority. I don't care which one.
I believe it would be simple.
That's probably the better of it.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
After
for
I heard what you said, I'm like, I don't have to say anything. You already cleared it up, Commissioner.
And I should have, it's my fault, Madam Chair. I should have called and reached out to you guys first, but Commissioner Pritchett saved the day by bringing this forward. So now your will expand to other facilities, not just this one.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Pritchett.
Commissioner Tabaya, thank you for doing this extra legwork. You helped with a lot of things. So I would like to just throw out one little recommendation, because we're going to have the Cocoa West vote just on the Cocoa West without the others. Maybe let them meet 30 minutes early before the rest of the board shows up, so they can do that business and the rest of them can join them. That way they're already here on the facility, and then you don't have the other ones here.
Madam Chair.
Mhm.
That's A-okay. I certainly would like their input on the larger board as well.
So they
but
can stick around for that part.
I
That
think
way you
that's-
get this
I
one.
never even thought about that. I think that's a wonderful idea.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion for option number 3 with the amendment provided by Commissioner Pritchett for the board meeting 30 minutes prior to the meeting of the larger board.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Tobias. The clerk get the motion, okay? Second by Commissioner Pritchett. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, item J1 was removed. Moving on to public comments, Anita Killen.
Good morning. My name is Anita Killen, and I wasn't planning to speak today, but there was so much misinformation going around that I felt compelled to address some of that misinformation. First of all, when you were having the conversation about registered citizens, there were a few points that I'd like to correct. Number one, it was addressed that there's a Romeo and Juliet clause. That is true. If their individuals are 4 years apart. Problem is, there are many people that are still on the registry because that amendment was passed after their conviction. And either they were unable to pay for court costs to have it changed again, or for whatever reason, maybe they've moved out of the state and Florida keeps them on the registry for life, even if they've moved. There are still a lot of individuals that are on the registry for Romeo and Juliet cases. The second thing is, you mentioned that the state statute influenced the ordinance here in Brevard County, which is actually an exclusion zone ordinance, which prohibits people that are on the registry from living within 1,000 feet of a school, park, playground, or daycare center. And the state has nothing in it for an exclusion zone that is strictly Brevard County. You mentioned the individual who was wearing a uniform. By the way, that was his work uniform, and he was going back to work. You mentioned that predator has a more severe, serious label than offender. Let me share a story. There are many, many of them that I'm happy to share with you at a later date. But a more recent one was the individual who was working on International Drive on probation, working on International Drive. He lived close to the Brevard Orange County line past UCF. He was 20 minutes late getting home from work. They violated him. They changed his status from offender to predator for being 20 minutes late from work. Yes, ma'am. I want to address the registered citizen versus sex offender. A sex offender sounds like somebody who is currently offending at this time, much like a commissioner, a teacher, a police officer. Those are present roles that they are in. These individuals are not offending. They are not offenders. They are not predators in many cases. And finally, the term even registered citizen barely even sums it up because they are registered. That is a true statement. However, they're barely citizens, particularly here in Brevard County. And the last thing I'm going to make a point on is this one-size-fits-all that we have here in Florida does not work any more than saying every politician is crooked, or every doctor, practices voodoo or whatever it is. I mean, you cannot make blanket statements about individuals. And finally, I'm here to educate. And I realize, and the last point is,
Your time
really
is up, and I
encourage-
have to be fair and
I
stop you because
understand, but just let me finish my
I
statement.
can't do that
understand.
because I would have to let everybody that gets up and talks, and I already let
I
you
will put
spoke
it
more
in
than 3
writing to
minutes.
you. Thank you very much for your time.
I don't ever like to cut anybody off, but we have those rules in place so we don't give favoritism to other people who want to speak longer. Moving on to board reports. I have no further public comment cards.
No
Mr.
report.
Vate? Ms. Jornby?
No report.
Commissioner Pritchett? Commissioner Tobias?
No report.
And I too have no report, so I want to thank everybody for attending today. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Oh, no. Executive session before this adjournment or after?
If I may just have a 5-minute recess, I
Okay.
need to verify where our outside counsel is.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, we're going to take 5 minutes. Our counsel is not here. Sorry, not opposing counsel. Wasn't even a long meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
Yes, thank you.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.